Hi there. So, while selling a few of my baby house snakes from this year, a few people had questions about how to keep them. So, I wanted to do a basics video on how to keep them. If you want to go in depth on how to keep these species specifically, I recommend this book by Eric Patterson. It goes into a lot of depth and his experience. So, if you're looking for just a recipe of what to follow, then this book will do quite well. It might be expensive from around the world, but if you're in the UK, I think it wasn't too expensive. Yeah, Eric's a good guy. I remember watching his videos when I was still in South Africa looking to leave to the UK, so he has some old videos out there that are also worth looking at. So most people that are familiar with keeping snakes and have kept snakes for a while, I tell them that brown house snakes are similar to corn snakes, but they tend to dry out a bit more. So while you might think these snakes are from Africa, Africa is super hot, let's just keep them warm and dry. Keep in mind that these are nocturnal snakes, so most of the time they miss the heat of the day in Africa. So I would recommend to have a heating source of some sort for these snakes, like a heat pad. Certain types like bulbs might dry them out a bit too much. For the babies, I actually don't keep any heat on them. My house is kept at about 20 degrees Celsius all year round, so that's usually enough heat for them to grow well and to digest their food. If you're feeding them big meals like the adults, then they might need a bit more heat to help them digest. So to deal with the drying out, I normally just give them a moist hide. This is something that I learned from Eric Patterson, something that he did that I borrowed from him because I thought it was such a good idea. So I usually give them a tub that seals to keep in the moisture, and then just give them one hole that they can climb through. That way, if they're dry or if they're looking to shed, then they can just crawl into that tub and keep cool and keep moist. They also need a water bowl for water, and I get the types that are dog bowls, and they can go underneath for a different hide on the other side if they want. For substrate, it doesn't really matter what you use for substrate. You can use wood chips, you can use newspaper, you can use pine shavings, which is what I'm using. They're pretty good with most things. I think also, as with most snakes, stay away from cedar. I think cedar is poisonous to snakes. That's what I've heard. It could be one of those weird urban myths that gets perpetuated, but I'd stay away just in case. So yeah, this is what I keep for an adult male. The tub's big enough for male. Like, I usually try to make it so that as a rule of thumb, you want the length of the tub to be about the length of the snake, but that's just a rough guide, so don't go crazy about it. If it's a bit smaller, that's fine. If it's much bigger, that's great as well, but I try to use that as a guide for when I'm picking the tub size. So this was too small for the females, so I ended up getting bigger ones for the females, but this is fine for a male or for ones that are growing up still. So just the wood chips, water bowl, and the moist hide. This one is definitely for an adult or something like that. I put these in the tub, and then I make sure that they slide in tight. I don't want them loose in there because the snakes might escape. For the babies, I don't bother with anything other than these tightly fitting tubs because they are so good at escaping. They are still small and they can fit through tight gaps, and snakes escape way too easily. So these are my favorite types of tubs. These click closed and they lock, and snakes definitely can't get out, and then I just drill holes in the top and the sides to make sure there's enough air can get in. And then it's the same thing as with the adults. I give them a tub that has a hole for them to get in, and I give them a water bowl, and they can go in the tub if they want to hide, or this one's currently hiding somewhere under the wood shavings. And the same principle. This is a yearling, so it's grown out a little bit. This one's grown a bit slower than what they usually do. And this is for a hatchling. Same idea, the moist hide, the water bowl, and the wood shavings. And that's pretty much it. They're not super difficult to look after. They eat almost anything. When it comes to breeding, they're super easy to breed. You just put a male and female together, and then 2 months later you get eggs. It's fairly straightforward. There's actually kind of a joke in the reptile hobby how easy these guys are to breed, if you're interested in that. So that's pretty much it. If you do end up having questions, feel free to add them in comments on this video or contact me directly. I'll leave links to my Instagram, which I usually post more frequently than YouTube, as well as my little Facebook page that I set up that'll have availability for my snakes. Contact me through there if you have questions. If there's enough questions, maybe I'll make a follow-up one. But yeah, that's it. Cheers.